Ladies and gentlemen, O Canada, with members of the Central Band of the Canadian Armed Forces and the Ottawa Children's Choir. Mesdames et Messieurs, O Canada, avec les membres de la musique centrale des Forces armées canadiennes et du chœur des enfants d'Ottawa.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. We will remember them.
Ils ne vieilliront pas comme nous, qui
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
Je me rappelle, vivront comme nous autres, seront pas accaparés louches, quand nous allons s'échapper, quand qui se lève, on va frapper les autres. Il était, je comme nous autres, ils servaient, sans penser aux autres. Nous promettons que même si est un poste, nous porterons le flamme, le prix jamais brûlé. On va toujours se rappeler 12 ans.
Dans le respect des croyants
or wholeness, whether in our own hearts or the actions of others, so that we might be strengthened in our shared values and service to Canada. War tears apart. It takes that which is whole and dismembers. To remember is to bring together again that which was once torn apart. It is our solemn duty to remember, as those who live as the beneficiaries of the peace brought through the service and sacrifice of our forebearers. It is in so doing that we honor their legacy and participate in their noble work. The global pandemic continues to challenge us. Each of us has gained a new appreciation for community, for those whom we hold dear, those whom we have not been able to see in person. Yet, we know there is still more to do. Each of us is called to look out for each other, to foster and encourage the common good that binds us together. May today's commemoration inspire us to work together for a better future. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice-Regal Party will now begin placing their wreaths. Mesdames et messieurs, le cortège vice-royal déposera maintenant les couronnes. The Governor-General of Canada, Her Excellency, the Right Honourable Mary May Simon. La Gouverneure Générale du Canada, Son Excellence, la Très Honorable Mary May Simon. First Mother, Madame Josée Simard. La Mère nationale de la Croix d'Argent, Madame Josée Simard. Representing the Government of Canada, our Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau. Représentant le gouvernement du Canada, notre Premier ministre, le très honorable Justin Trudeau. The Speaker of the Senate of Canada, the Honourable George Fury, and the Speaker of the House of Commons of Canada, the Honourable Anthony Rota. Le Président du Sénat du Canada, l'Honorable George Fury, et le Président de la Chambre des communes du Canada, l'Honorable Anthony Rota. Representing Veterans Affairs Canada, the Minister of Veterans Affairs and Associate Minister of National Defence, the Honourable Lawrence Macaulay. Représentant Anciens Combattants Canada, le Ministre des Anciens Combattants et Ministre associé de la Défense nationale, l'Honorable Lawrence Macaulay. The Acting Chief of the Defense Staff, General Wayne Eyre. Le Chef d'État-Major de la Défense, par intérim, le Général Wayne Eyre. Representing the youth of Canada, Ryan McCardle and Louise McCrow. Représentant la jeunesse du Canada, Ryan McCardle et Louise McCrow. The Dominion President of the Royal Canadian Legion, Mr. Bruce Julian. Le Président national de la Légion royale canadienne, Monsieur Bruce Julian. We now invite the placement of additional wreaths. Nous invitons maintenant le placement des couronnes supplémentaires.
I stand here today with overflowing emotion, with the weight of history and memory, both recent and past, on my heart. Je suis ici aujourd'hui,
I am here
portant
today
sur moi le poids de l'histoire,
feeling the
et
weight
le
of
cœur
history
rempli de souvenirs,
and
Wilson et moi.
recent
I stand here today
history and
accompanied by
past
my
history.
grandfather, 95 years young, who proudly served our country in the Royal Canadian Navy during World War II. The younger brother and best friend of my late great-uncle, who also served in World War II and forever bore the scars of service, returning to Canada on Mother's Day, 1945, on a hospital ship, alive, but laden with the shrapnel that would painfully remain embedded in his body for the rest of his life. I stand here today reflecting on the Kandahar Cenotaph at the Afghan Memorial Hall here in Ottawa, a memorial built by those who served in Afghanistan to honor the memory of those who perished there, military personnel and civilians alike. And I reflect on the image of young veterans paying their respect at the Kandahar Cenotaph, honoring their fallen brothers and sisters who made the ultimate sacrifice for the sake of every single one of us across this great nation. I stand here today and reflect on these stories and the countless others they represent, symbols of our unwavering commitment to freedom and liberty in the face of tyranny. Nous sommes ensemble, unis par une
We are
immense
together,
reconnaissance
united
envers nos
by
anciens
our
combattants,
gratitude towards our
jeunes et
veterans,
moins jeunes.
young
We
and
stand
less young.
together today with profound gratitude for the supreme sacrifice the most courageous and selfless among us have made in the effort to defend those values of freedom and liberty wherever and whenever they have been threatened. We stand together today with overflowing hearts as we recognize that this sacred sacrifice extends beyond our cherished veterans, to their families, to their loved ones, mothers and fathers, husbands, wives and life partners, children and siblings. We stand together today in humble recognition of the many who return to Canada with body intact, but with deep, invisible wounds. We stand in tribute to our revered Canadian forces, both past and present, today and every day. For those who served in times of war and those who have stood on the front lines here at home, who have come to the aid of communities beset by crises and emergent needs, whether a pandemic, raging fires, or roiling floods. We stand here today knowing we enjoy the blessing of our true North, strong and free, in large part because of each and every one of you, our cherished Canadian Armed Forces. We stand together today to loudly declare, we stand with you. And as we stand together today, we reflect on the late, beloved Rabbi Bonfa's last words of his last Remembrance Day benediction, November 11th, 2020. Let us continue to make Canada worthy of our veterans' ongoing dedication and sacrifice. A country defined by respect, harmony, inclusion, responsibility, and kindness to all. God bless our veterans. God bless our troops. God bless all those who stand on guard, all champions of peace, safety, security, and tranquility. God bless Canada. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, God Save the Queen with the Ottawa Children's Choir. Mesdames et messieurs, que Dieu protège la reine avec le chœur des enfants d'Ottawa. The Governor-General of Canada, Her Excellency, the Right Honourable Mary May Simon, will now receive the Vice-Regal Salute. La Gouverneure Générale du Canada, Son Excellence la Très Honorable Mary May Simon, recevra maintenant le salut vice-royal. And that is the Governor General now leading the ceremony along with the other dignitaries in attendance, including, you'll see behind her there, her husband Whit Fraser, who, as well as being a longtime broadcaster, was also in the Canadian Armed Forces briefly. So that may be why she's chosen to wear that particular uniform today. hard to make out anything. But this is the Governor General's first Remembrance Day as Governor General, as Commander-in-Chief, and you can see her doing the rounds and talking to people as she makes her way back to her car. The Prime Minister and his wife also there, as well as the Silver Cross Mother, who you heard from earlier in this program. Just make a special mention of Rabbi Reuben Bulka, who would usually give the benediction at the end. You heard the rabbi say that Rabbi Bulka was not there. He passed away in June from cancer. He was a well-loved part of this ceremony by so many people, and a well-loved person in the city of Ottawa too. And just this morning, the Minister of Veterans Affairs, Lawrence Macaulay, gave him a posthumous commendation, the first ever, to Rabbi Bulka for his support of soldiers and Canadian Armed Forces and veterans, and his presence at these ceremonies. He was sorely missed. His words were always very poignant. And Tim Cook is still with me, of course, from the War Museum, and historian and author himself of so many different parts of Canada's contribution to various conflicts. There are a lot of people here, I have to say. It warms my heart to see people back in a lot of numbers, even if the veterans themselves aren't all here because of limited seating. It is nice to see that. In some ways, you know, even if you're worried, first of all, everyone's masked up, even if they're standing close to each other, but it is nice to see so many people here.
It really is,
yeah.
And just like in the past, and it reminds me of this day, Remembrance Day, that evolves with us, that reflects our society, the challenges that we pass through, and I was struck by the benediction, those powerful words, and I think of this day, it's a secular day, but it's also a very sacred day.
It is, yeah.
Isn't it? For many Canadians who, it's grounded in their families, it's grounded in their loved ones, it's grounded in the community and country, and for others, a very spiritual day. And I think we see that here in the ceremony. The Governor General, the Silver Cross Mother, aspects of courage, of endurance, and it is a day that I know many Canadians look forward to, a day of sadness, a day of sorrow for some, a day of pride. There's a lot to unpack here, and I think we've seen that in the ceremony.
And it could be all of those things, right? Like you can be very proud and feel very proud and touched and moved and sad and emotional for all those things. And I think that's why the day is so special, because it encompasses all those things. Off the top of the ceremony, you may have noticed there was a delay in the arrival of events, and there was a delay in the arrival of dignitaries. We've since got some information about that delay. My producer, Phil Ling, spoke to the RCMP National Division, who tells us that there was a suspicious package in the vicinity of the National War Memorial. They didn't want to take any chances, so they wanted to make sure that it was clear and safe, and it has been cleared and everything is okay, and that's why the ceremony was allowed to continue. But the Prime Minister was a little over 10 minutes delayed because of this event, which shows you just how seriously they do take these things. I should say all around the National War Memorial, streets are blocked off with large dump trucks and other huge vehicles because unfortunately this city has seen terror attacks or attempts in the past, and so they do take it very seriously when dignitaries and many Canadians are all sort of in the open air. So that is what happened. That is why the delay. Again, the National Division of the RCMP telling us this morning that there was a suspicious package which caused the delay. It's near the memorial, but it was cleared. And so the ceremony was allowed to go ahead, thankfully. But again, something that they obviously take. There is a large security presence for these things anyway. And obviously, if they were in any way in doubt, they would want to make sure that things were secure for everyone to attend. So as we've been talking about, last year people were told to stay away. This year, very different on the streets here around me. There's lots lots of people, which is lovely to see. And David Thurton on Elgin Street just near me spoke to someone who came out today now that they could. David.
Up the street, and I just had to come up here because I wanted to introduce you to a veteran who has served for over 28 years. He's with me right now. Just tell us your first and your last name.
First name is Edwin Gallant.
Edwin Gallant, and as much as possible, you try and come to these Remembrance Day ceremonies. And so, what's it like to come here after not being able to gather here in person?
It's actually quite grateful that we were actually allowed to come down here and show the respects to both past people who went in World War I, World War II, and other conflicts in the world. And it's great to see people here showing support. Last year I was here and there was nobody actually at the cenotaph itself until the ceremony was over, which is a few of the veterans came down to see anyway, even though there was restrictions in place with COVID. We still wanted to show our respects. And this year it's great to see all the crowds out here showing their respect today.
Not being able to gather, do you think Remembrance Day loses a bit of its meaning when you're not allowed to gather?
There are safety considerations for everybody, and COVID's nothing really, I guess, to be dealt with lightly. And last year there were other restrictions and people weren't vaccinated. This year it's a little bit different. A lot of people are vaccinated, so a little bit safer protocol, but it's people have to be safe. And this sort of gathering with people in public still needs to be done, but you could have a somewhat of a restricted gathering, but still show the respect that we need.
And what do you think of the crowds? Being someone who is a veteran and a veteran of these national ceremonies, what is it? What do you think of the crowds? It's pretty large this year.
Well, actually, it actually shows that supporting veterans and servicemen today. So the tradition continues. In fact, there's more people today. Like other years, there's been a lot more crowds, but with the restrictions itself and people's safety, it's actually good that people are still able to come out and show their respects.
Mr. Gallant, thank you so much, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And Rosie.
Okay, David. Again, so nice to see people back in strong numbers again this year now that they're allowed to. As the dignitaries get ready to leave, again, the Governor General there, Mary Simon and her husband. Let's go back to Toronto. Deanna Sumanak has been hanging out with kids at the Hodgson Public School there. Deanna.
Rosie, I've had a great privilege of hanging out with these kids for the last few hours, and I must admit, as a history buff myself, it always worries me a little bit that this generation, which just doesn't have as many veterans to come and talk to them in person as you and I might have had, not to date us, but certainly no veterans from the First World War, very few from the Second World War, that perhaps the wars and the sacrifices of these servicemen and women seem a little remote to them, a little abstract. But after the last few hours, I'm happy to find that these kids are very connected to the events of the war. Of course, they have podcasts, they have YouTube, they're very visually savvy in finding out the stories that they can relate to. And today, during a very traditional ceremony, they seem to be really absorbing the solemnity of the moment and thanking in their own way the servicemen and women who sacrificed so much for Canada's life today. So happy to announce that the kids are absolutely okay and really know their history. Rosie.
Deanna, that's great. And a credit to their teachers for sure. Thank you for that, Deanna. Really nice to see.
Absolutely.
Really nice to see kids learning about things. They can also read all of Tim's books. I don't know how many are up to now, like 13 or something, Tim. Yeah. So you get cracking on those, and you see there the Governor General meeting with the Ottawa Children's Choir. I know that too. Nice to have those kids back singing. Obviously, this year we've been talking a lot about the war in Afghanistan and people who have resettled in Canada now, as well as Afghans who are experiencing their first Remembrance Day. So as we stay on these pictures here, here's one woman's thoughts today.
I'm Razia Arfi. I'm 17 years old and I came to Canada from Kabul, Afghanistan 2 months ago. I left my parents back home. They gave up on their life and their freedom just because of me. When we went to the airport, it was so crowded. I saw many people who were just waiting for the soldiers to check their documents and let them go. It was so hot and we were so thirsty. We did not eat anything or drink. The Canadian soldiers were the best. I saw that they were caring about people more than themselves. I saw them that they were not drinking their water and gave it to the people. Remembrance Day is somehow a respectful day for those who fight for you and for your freedom. They are the people who left their family and they stopped living just for saving the others people's life. We can remember them, we can share their memories with others. I am really lucky because I left Afghanistan in such a situation that many people in Afghanistan don't have this chance.
Freedom is not the right that everyone has in Afghanistan, especially for girls.
Being here in Canada, it gives me more power. It encourages me to live and work hard. So the chance that I have, many people in Afghanistan don't have.
That's just one recent Afghan refugee. Of course, the government's committed to bringing over 40,000 of them, and so many veterans helping in the efforts to bring over people still stuck in Afghanistan and who feel that their lives might be in danger because of the Taliban. Travis Damraj is back at the National War Memorial with a guest. Travis?
Thanks very much for that, Rosie. I have with me right now the Deputy Chaplain General of the Canadian Armed Forces, Benita Mason. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to talk to you about a fixture at these ceremonies for years. Someone who gives the benediction, who was not with us this year, that's Rabbi Reuben Balka. Tell me a little bit about him and how his presence was missed this year.
Thank you, Travis. Rabbi Balka, as everyone knows, was an incredible ambassador for Canadians, and he would come every year and do the benediction at the end of the Remembrance Day ceremony, I think for over the last 30 years. And all of his prayers weaved a common thread about inclusivity and diversity and respect, which resonated with the veterans from World War I, World War II, up to where we are today, present serving CAF members who understand and appreciate the importance of the message that Rabbi Balka was wanting to present to Canadians, which was that we're united as one, and that diversity is, inclusivity is such an important piece of that. And when Rabbi Balka would be giving his benediction, the cameras would span across the veterans, and you see them nodding in a sense of understanding of how his words spoke to them.
And he was a figure that did not only touch the Jewish community. He was known as Canada's rabbi, but he